And now, the best 60-ish seconds of your week. Despite the tumultuous run-up to the 2018 midterm elections, they came and went this week without much more than a little whimper, because things really went pretty much as predicted. You know, 2016 produced an awful lot of surprises, but 2018, very few. Yes, the Democrats took control of the House, but that was expected and predicted by virtually every prognosticator across the country. And they did it really within the historical confines. The midterm elections have always been tough. On the party that held 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the average number of takeaways has been over 30. The Democrats don't appear, at least at this point, to have gotten to that number. They may, because there are still a number of seats that have yet to be called, but it's not going to be anywhere near the blue wave or even the blue tsunami that some were predicting. And on the Senate side, the Republicans not only held their majority, but they increased it, as we predicted a couple of weeks ago. By how many seats, we're not yet sure, because again, there are a couple that still have yet to be finally called, and there is a runoff election scheduled in Mississippi as a result of no candidate there getting 50% on the ballot on Tuesday. The real question now becomes, what will each party do with those majorities? In the House, the Democrats still have some serious fissures to take care of. Nancy Pelosi had literally 50 members of her party run on platforms saying they wouldn't vote for her for Speaker. Many of them got elected. What they now do will be an interesting thing to see. But Tim Ryan, one of the people that has been after her seat, hasn't said yet that he will actually run for Speaker, but was clearly signaling that the question of who the Speaker of the House is still very much up for grabs. Meanwhile, Donald Trump at his press conference said he'd help her get the votes necessary to be elected Speaker. I think she'll prevail ultimately. And then the question becomes, does the wing of her party that's wanting impeachment, investigations, and all this crazy stuff prevail, or do the more moderate Democrats who want to actually get something done? Our former governor, Ed Rendell, gave some great advice to his party on election night when he said, legislate, 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 and forget about investigate, investigate, investigate. Because I believe there are two I's that are very doable for the two parties. Most notably, infrastructure, something that Democrats want, a significant number of Republicans do as well, and the president certainly does. And even immigration, there is an opportunity for a more comprehensive package, including DACA, and the president said so just the other day, if there is some ability to work across the aisle and get things done. That's going to fade very quickly, and the president was clear about that if the Democrats insist upon far-reaching investigations. Their big problem is going to be overreach. We'll have to see how that all works out. Republicans, meanwhile, in the Senate have the opportunity to continue to put lifetime appointments onto the courts. Maybe the Supreme Court, because there's certainly an opportunity or the possibility and potential of an additional seat coming open on the Supreme Court. But for all those Article III courts, the federal courts and the courts of appeals, where the real action takes place, and an opportunity to really reshape the judiciary for a generation. Immediately following the president's somewhat raucous post-election press conference came the announcement of the resignation of Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Probably the worst kept secret in Washington, D.C. over the course of the past few weeks, because an undated letter of resignation clearly signaled that the president had had it in his hands for quite some time. The questions then became, what does that all mean? And who will be the next Attorney General? And some Democrats are saying, well, he's going to fire Mueller and all this and that. I'll go out on a limb and say the president is not going to fire Robert Mueller. And you can hold me to the fire if that proves not to be the case, but Donald Trump clearly understands that it would be a reach way too far to fire Mueller and would have catastrophic political implications for his administration. I simply don't think it's going to happen. And for those who thought that the midterm elections meant the end of chatter about political campaigns, good luck, because the gates have already opened for the race for the White House in 2020. And already there are 45, 50, 60 prominent Democrats scampering around, hoping to be the nominee to face Donald Trump in the general election in 2 years. And we will have a lot of fun discussing that process over the course of the next few months. But this weekend, we all take a moment to observe Armistice Day on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. And although in the United States, Armistice Day has become Veterans Day, Since 1954, incidentally, we look back 100 years to the end of World War I and reflect on all that meant. It was the custom for many years to take a moment of silence on that 11th hour and 11th day and 11th month. And although we observe Veterans Day on Monday, it might be good of all of us to just take a moment and reflect on so many who have done so much to defend our freedoms. And for now, that is the best 60-ish seconds of your week.